Thank you for the invitation to speak with you today. I'm Ashok Ranadive, Director of Professional Services at Casper Labs. Casper Labs is the creator of Casper Public Blockchain, which is the first proof of stake blockchain created with enterprises in mind to develop commercial grade applications. And just to drive the point home, I'm joined today by founders, CEOs, and senior leaders of 4 of our Casper partners who have built or are in the process of building enterprise-grade applications on Casper. Let's learn what inspired these leaders to use Casper's NFT technology to disrupt their industries. Through these discussions, we'll have a first-hand understanding of how Casper Labs is building enterprise-grade NFT technology that solves real-world business problems and disrupts outdated revenue models. So we have today our esteemed panelists, Carlos Moira, founder, chairman, and CEO of Wisekey and Wise Art. Nim Shirivardhani, co-founder and CTO of Metacast. Kamal Hotchandani, CEO and How to Living Music. And Esteban Van Goor, who's co-founder of D-Music. And Jonas Block, Head of Product Management at IPV. In a moment, we will hear from each of our partners what they are doing with Casper technology, and then we can also go into some question and answers. Before we begin diving deeper into the technologies and innovation our partners are bringing to disrupt their industries, let's build some perspective about what technology we are here to discuss. How many of you relate to this number 21 here? It's a nascent industry, but if you really see what we have achieved in last 365 days, we have $21 billion of revenue generated using NFTs as technology. That's an incredible number for a technology which has just been around for a few years. And that kind of momentum, we understand, we do understand that there is some amount of speculation here, but that has driven 2 key points. One is it has grabbed the attention of real investors who are now fueling innovation, like the partners that we have on the panel today. And secondly, it has driven build out of fundamental infrastructure for real investments to grow on, like technology that Casper has put together. Casper Labs has rightly seized the opportunity and the momentum in the NFT space and built out a robust infrastructure to support the next crucial phase of NFTs evolution. I can broadly categorize the innovation that Casper Labs has brought to the NFT infrastructure into 4 key bullets. One is out-of-box support for NFTs. What we have done is to bring NFTs as a first-class citizen in the blockchain space, developing key elements that are required for innovation to grow. Make it real, essentially helping real-world assets to come on-chain. Keep the commercial user in mind, because those are the real use cases where innovation is going to grow and sustain. And the last point, but not the least, make it sustainable. We are in an evolution where energy efficiency, environmental consciousness is extremely important, not only for brands, but as a humanity for ourselves. So these 4 pillars essentially, and we can dive a little bit deeper into each of these in the next slide. When we say out of the box support for NFTs, what is it that we are doing here? The CP47 standard that we have put together based on ERC 721, which is the core foundation for NFTs, comes with SDKs and other important Other important building blocks or Lego blocks that are very, very important to create an experience which is extremely professional for developers. Make it real, we provide a detailed and very elaborate support in writing contracts in Rust. There is a development environment. There are 2 testnets available, and there is a local testnet available for developing contracts on your machine. And we also provide, which is really interesting, is economic consulting. We have a team of economists which will help you create and design your marketplace or tokenization aspects of your solution. We are focused on commercial users, so definitely there is an integrated solution available that provides on-chain KYC and auction contract. Contracts are easy to upgrade, and we are doing something very innovative in pricing. This research is complete, and maybe in next few months we'll bring this innovation to NFT world. Is basically making pricing extremely stable and predictable, and even beyond that. And as a proof of stake blockchain, our energy consumption is like several thousand times lower than proof of work chains, and it is important for brands and for enterprises to keep environmental considerations in their mind. So this is all comes along with Casper's infrastructure. Moving on, I quickly wanted to introduce the panelists that we have. One second. All right, so we have with us D-Music. D-Music is teamed up with Megalodon, a financial consultancy firm, and Help Living, a premier media conglomerate, to launch D-Music digital NFT record shop using Casper technology. We have Esteban and Kamal joining us. This is crucial because particularly with the pandemic going on, musicians and artists had a bit of challenge in terms of connecting with their fan base and also keeping their revenue streams going. I think a blockchain technology like Casper really solves this problem. We will talk about it when we discuss this in the panel. We have Metacast. All those who love premium whiskey will definitely enjoy learning about this. We have Nim joining us, who's CTO of Metacast, discussing the innovation that he is bringing to this real world asset investment class and opening it up for the larger larger investors. We have IPV, which is bringing an innovation to intellectual platform and intellectual property rights and patents management. They are one of the largest marketplaces for patents. And we are going to talk to Jonas, who is the product manager and leader in IPV. And lastly, but not the least, we have Carlos from Wise.art, promoted by WiseKey, a listed company on NASDAQ. They are building a very elaborate premium NFT platform on Casper Labs. Now, let's switch gears and speak with the visionary leaders who are joining us on the panel, who are disrupting outdated business models by building on Casper Network. So I'm going to turn to my esteemed panelists here. Can each of you tell our audience a little bit about the real world business problem you're trying to solve using Casper blockchain? And mind you, some of these solutions are already out there. That is, they're already in the production, and a few are being built. So maybe I can invite you, Carlos, and then we can go around.
Okay, Ashok, yeah, nice to see you again, and hi everybody. So I am the CEO and founder of WiseKey. We are calling you guys from Switzerland, Geneva. We are a cybersecurity company listed on the NASDAQ. very strong on identity management for both people and objects. We had been for a while on the market, and our focus has been always to protect basically international based transactions over the internet, basically to avoid what just happened a few minutes ago, one guy just hopping around and making our work difficult. So that's what we do. We do that for e-voting, we do that for government transactions, we do that for payments, we do that for KYC compliant. We have our own microchips, so we produce our own microchips. So we have something like 1.5 billion objects already secured by microchips. And in the last 2 years, we had been expanding into what we call identity NFT. An NFT is the ultimate identity because it's minted on the blockchain, therefore it's a non-repudiation on that identity. And we started to identify that a lot of the objects that we provide or microchips, they are potentially NFTable, if we can call it that way. So they can create an NFT out of that identity, which is embedded into an object. So we started with art, very expensive art. Imagine a Picasso that you have original and you want to dematerialize, you want to create an NFT, and you need to go back and forward to the original as a way to prove the provenance. So we have done multi-million-dollar transactions using our technology to provide the evidence that the original is the original and the NFT is a digital twin of that original. We also work with auction houses and museums and many big institutions, and all of them, they are moving the physical world to the metaverse. And in order to do that, you need to establish an identity one-to-one between the physical asset and the virtual asset. So with Casper Lab, we basically developed what we call wise.art, which is going to be launched in Davos. So Casper Lab and WiseKey are going to have a very strong presence at the World Economic Forum in Davos, which is all about trust on the metaverse. And the vision is that in the future, 1 trillion objects will basically have its own NFT. We are not only talking here about art or expensive watches, that's what we started to do at the beginning, but that implies of everything. It implies intellectual property, implies real estate, imply diplomas, certificates, even in the future could even vote using NFTs on the metaverse. So the metaverse will not happen if you don't create a one-to-one relation with the physical world, as we are in the physical world. Before getting connected to the metaverse, we have to connect from a physical location, right? So the connectivity between the physical world and the virtual one needs to happen. I think NFT is a breakthrough. I think NFT is what Bitcoin was a few years ago when they started to decentralize financial transactions. NFT decentralized identity management processes, so you don't have to anymore to have platforms like Facebook or like Apple or like Amazon holding that identity for you. The identity belongs to the person and the object that person owns or has rights to it. And obviously those objects then with that identity can move into the metaverse through an NFT. We are also developing KYC compliance for crypto payments. You know, it's a lot of money laundering going on NFTs, and many big organizations like the United Nations. I was, by the way, the Chief Security Officer of the UN for 16 years. So my job was to secure governments on the UN. And I know that many big organizations will not move into NFTs if we don't give them reassurance that transactions are clean, means that the money that you're going to be using to buy your NFTs come from a trusted source, that there has been KYC compliance on the customer, that the wallets are not coming from illicit trade or the dark web. So that aspect is also covered by our technology. I don't want to spend more time and maybe let the other speakers speak. And if you need me back in whatever capacity, I am here to listen to you guys. Thank you very much for your attention.
Yeah, thank you, Carlos. We are also going to be opening up later for question and answer. So there'll be definitely opportunity for people to ask questions or ask for some clarifications. Maybe let's move over to Jonas from IPV. Jonas, would you be able to throw some light around the business problem that you're solving with Casper blockchain?
Thanks, Ashok. Thank you very much for inviting us to explain the use case today. So as mentioned in the intro, we are focused on tokenizing innovation on the Casper blockchain. And I mean, business rely on innovation because innovation fuels business success and builds competitive edges. So businesses that stop to innovate will just vanish over time. That's nothing new to the people that are on this call, because we are all here with the goal of disrupting the way that the things are done in the business world specifically. But being the hub for innovation and innovation transfer means that we are solving an array of real-world problems using Casper Chain, which is, first of all, how do companies identify innovation? How do they capture innovation and acquire innovation? How do they evaluate innovation potential and quality? And how do they monetize innovation eventually, or make it available in a non-monetary way that is beneficial to the public? So it's basically, identify, capture, evaluate, and make accessible. And the way that we're doing this in cooperation with the Casper blockchain and Casper Labs is, first of all, innovation is by its very definition unique. So minting innovation assets into NFTs is definitely the appropriate way forward for anything related to innovation. And we have developed this functionality with the Casper team. Well, but at the same time, and I'm referring to the broad term innovation here, while the intro was directed to patents, is that already shows you that there's different ways how innovation touches business success. So on the enterprise side, the term innovation is largely overlapping with industrial property rights, like the mentioned patents, trade secrets, designs, and trademarks. And speaking about the connection between the real world asset and the digital asset, is some of these are registered as real world assets with the respective patent office, for example, and others are not, like trade secrets outside of the US, for example. So to help companies capture and identify innovation, we're using a very sophisticated structure of the NFT to link, first of all, to link innovation assets together, to verify innovation contribution and ownership, to approximate the Oracle problem. And lastly, we have developed the interface technology to use and to monetize innovation and to make innovation accessible, which means we have deployed with Casper on the Casper chain license tokens and smart contracts with the goal of driving down the transaction costs between the interplay of real-world innovation and digital assets. That is our use case on the Casper chain in a nutshell.
Yeah, thank you, Jonas. And just to add a little bit to that, the IPV use cases on patents required a very complex structuring of key management and multi-signature, which Casper Labs was able to provide. And we'll probably write some blogs around it and keep an eye out for that. But that was a real input that, which was very, very significantly different from what we have today on other blockchain solutions. May I invite Nim Shivardane to talk about the use cases I really love to talk about, as well as taste, and that's about premium whiskey casks on Casper blockchain.
Thanks, Ashok. So early last year, we started looking at how whiskey was actually being traded. When you think about whiskey, the way whiskey matures up in Scotland, for example, is it's sat in a barrel. And what we're really looking at is a non-fungible physical asset. But interestingly, the way this thing is traded is using a really arcane mechanism called a delivery order, which basically is just a paper letter that's sent between three parties in a transaction: the buyer, the seller, and the storage facility where the whiskey is stored. And so when we looked at it, we thought, actually, this is really a nice application for blockchain, and more importantly, NFTs, primarily because the NFT allows us to represent this non-fungible physical asset in the digital world. So this one-to-one relationship, I think that Carlos mentioned earlier, right? And so the nice thing for us is that the actual cask itself has a unique reference number, which can be held within the NFT, which effectively means that we can now have a public database of all the casks that are up there. And interestingly, 21 was mentioned earlier, there's about 21 million casts up in Scotland that's currently maturing, which is very, very providential, I guess. Right? So when you take these physical assets, which are non-fungible, and you represent them as an NFT, what we're really doing is using the NFT as a title of deed, right? And so then the blockchain transaction really just represents that execution, that sale that previously happened via paper. It's now over the blockchain. Why did we go down the route of using Casper? We could have used any of the other blockchains, right? But I think one of the main sort of reasons we looked at it was because we wanted to store a lot of the information about the actual physical cask itself on chain, rather than have this held on some file, some file on IPFS, for example, right? And so if you look at all of our NFTs, when we mint them, the actual information about the cask, the properties, are actually on chain. And more importantly, as the cask matures over time, as the whiskey matures, the level of the alcohol changes, for example, we can actually mutate some of the information in the NFT to reflect the actual underlying physical asset also changing, right? And so when you look at this kind of on-chain data storage we kind of needed for the NFTs, combined with all of the other properties that, Ashok mentioned earlier, it made the decision relatively straightforward in terms of, okay, this is the blockchain we'll use for building Metacask. Now, Metacask itself, apart from obviously tokenizing all the whiskey costs, plans to be a marketplace where people can buy and sell these assets. The marketplace itself is decentralized, which is why we have these standalone auction smart contracts, which we're basically using to allow people to sell effectively what they've done. The other thing that we're doing is allowing the producers to actually mint NFTs using their own contracts. So if you think about the distilleries, effectively they will have their own smart contracts from which they can actually mint the casks that they're producing, which then guarantees true authenticity. So when somebody buys a cask, they're confident that this particular NFT was minted by, let's say, a Macallan or a Glenfiddich or someone like that, because it came from the wallet that's owned by that particular organization, right? And so that's kind of one of the routes that we're taking, in this approach that we're doing with Metacask. I think it's probably, I'll stop there. I could go on for some more, but I'll stop there.
Thanks, Nim. And just to add to that complexity of changing metadata that Nim brought out, Casper also was able to provide like an integrated solution where there is on-chain KYC and on-chain auction. I think this is pretty unique, and no other blockchain really has this. We have platforms where the auction really happens outside of the chain, and only the results are kind of stored. And having something like an auction contract and on-chain KYC is really a great innovation in this space as well. Moving over to D-Music, I would like to invite Kamal and Esteban to talk about how they are using Casper to solve this real-world challenge that particularly musicians and their fans are facing in this pandemic, situation.
Yeah, thanks, Ashok. I hope you can hear me well. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining. Yeah, so basically, in first instance, how we started D-Music was actually pure coincidence. Coming from the country where I used to live, the Netherlands. There's of course a lot of artists, and most of my friends, who at least I know, are like famous DJs or musicians. So we had a discussion on like the issues which they had, and a lot of times it said that they sign with these big labels and they are unable to immediately distribute music to their fans. So when we saw at the demand in NFTs last year, we immediately started to conceptualize on like building out an NFT platform for music NFTs. But it's not only music NFTs. We of course have also other types of NFTs which we're building out. But yeah, from there we had a look and had an analysis on like what chain to use, because a lot of the clients which we have, because we also have a consultancy business, was like they're always questioning like, hey, how do I mint NFTs? Can you assist with a smart contract review? Can you maybe build it for us? These were all the questions which we received, and then we decided to just basically build a platform ourselves together with Casper Labs in partnership also with Hurt Living, so with Kamal. in order to make it easy for artists to mint NFTs and to sell NFTs to their clients, but not only sell. I always like to say that it's more like an experience. So what we have been building is a way that artists can easily communicate with their fan base in the form of, let's say, a customized metaverse where they can communicate, where they can discuss like potential upcoming drops, where they can do airdrops to their fans for specific music and the NFT holders. And of course, separate from that, where we could also hold like digital concerts where people could currently during COVID, it's not possible, depending of course on in which jurisdiction you are in, but to at least enjoy a party together with your favorite artist. It's not like for us the focus in first instance was on music. We also have of course other requests separate from music, so you can think of luxury brands, also think of art. Separate from that, because like the music is one of the entities which we co-founded, like from our side. We are a management consultancy firm. In some cases we see opportunities and basically invest ourselves and build out like certain things ourselves. And we saw another thing in the NFT space, which is still a topic which has not been covered a lot, but it's also like the actual taxation aspect like of VAT. So if of NFT, sorry, if it's not a security but a digital item, then how are you going to treat it from an indirect tax, so a sales tax and value added tax perspective? And that's also something which we built into our system. Separate from that, of course, we have also like included like KYC and AML related matters where relevant. For us, that is important because like my firm, but also me personally, I'm an executive advisor for United Nations. And because of that, we have a real focus on like staying compliant and making sure that whatever we push out is always compliant in relation to regulation. And where we don't know it for sure, and we don't know it for certain, we would always be able to lobby into a direction which should be sustainable as well for this space. So that's currently what we have been working on, expecting to have our first drops in Q2. Yeah, there's a few very nice artists and big brands who are currently working with us. So it's gonna be amazing.
Kamal, would you like to add some, your thoughts to that?
Yeah, from my side, working with all the talent and artists, you know, with the lockdowns and the loss of revenue of touring, it was important to see how to generate additional revenue streams. And I think, you know, our platform is going to help them with that. And as Esteban was touching about, as well as getting them closer to their fan base and knowing more about their fan base. So it addresses a lot of inefficiencies in today's current system. So we're excited about partnering and, you know, working on the Casper platform to deliver more for our artists, as well as bringing a lot of unique experiences and utilities to it that through the traditional methods weren't available. So we're super excited about this launch and, you know, freeing the artists to another level.
Fantastic. Thank you. My second question to my panelists is, what advice do you have for our audience who have joined us today here, or who would be listening or watching this, you know, this presentation, this discussion later, based on what you've learned about how to apply blockchain to connect the physical and digital world? Maybe we can start with you, Nim.
Sure. I mean, I think the biggest problem that we see in our space is actually verifying and you know the authenticity of an item, and also the kind of the provenance of this item. Now, luckily for what we're dealing with, the actual physical assets themselves are not transferred between the buyer and the seller. The cask of whiskey, as you can imagine, is a fairly big thing and doesn't really get shipped around. It has to actually sit in bonded warehouses up in Scotland, for example, or in Ireland, or wherever the whiskey is maturing. And so it kind of simplifies the problem a little bit, but certainly it's something that's very pertinent to the space. Is how do you authenticate what you really buy is what you actually paid for? Oh, sorry, what you actually bought is the right physical item, right? And the reality is that this problem has existed since eBay has really come into the scene, right? I mean, it's not a new problem that's there because of NFTs. It's one that's already been there, right? And there are various innovations that will try to help solve this. Obviously, Wisely have a solution, and there are various other people who provide, NFC chips, for example, that can be attached to things like bottles. This is something that that we're looking at the moment. When we start, supporting bottle NFTs, how do you make sure that a bottle that's been shipped to a particular user, when they sell it on, and that bottle is then shipped along, that is the actual, real item, right? And so, we will need more innovation to help us kind of verify these things. But I think that's really sort of the fundamental thing that needs to be tackled, right? How do you verify these physical assets are really what you bought as an NFT, right? And that will continue to exist, but obviously, we'll have these new technologies that will help us a little bit. Yeah, I think.
Thank you. No, thank you, Nim. And some of the work that we are doing at Casper, we are under NDA, so I can't describe more, but it's kind of integrating IoT devices, which can track and trace related applications for supply chain management. We are working with a governmental agency to do that for vaccines, for example. So these are like some of the innovative solutions that are now coming to technologies enabling them, and those will find wide applications going forward. Jonas, what do you think about your advice to the audience on connecting the physical and digital world?
Yeah, thank you. We actually made a lot of experience in this respect during our journey, because we started the tokenization. It wasn't called NFTs back then in 2018. And we were tokenizing patents at the time in the way that we just recorded them and wrote them to Hyperledger. That was pre-Casper. And now we are in a completely new use case. But back then, and I'm directing this specifically to the enterprise level, because to me, one of the key assets of Casper is that it's an enterprise chain that helps you to establish the trust with your enterprise customers to actually execute on their business, and not necessarily to change their existing behavior, but still be disruptive in the case. So we have made a lot of experience during our journey. And it can be boiled down and basically into three key lessons or takeaways. The first thing is, don't ignore the physical world asset that you're tokenizing, but don't let the physical world gatekeeper slow you down. So in our cases, we have a lot of data points that are very siloed across in the IP space, especially because a lot of stakeholders contribute to innovation. So we have the starting point is the innovator. We go through patent offices, different internal business stakeholders, can be the R&D department, the finance department. So there's a lot of gatekeepers involved with regard to the way innovation assets are handled. But listen to their concerns and wishes, but don't let them slow you down, because if you stick to the best practices in the blockchain world, and if you navigate the current regulatory challenges, and that was touched upon by my co-panelists, is the gatekeepers will adopt and when they're ready for it. So we have seen this shift, and that basically since the first Bitcoin surge in 2017, over time until now, is in the past, companies were not ready for the term blockchain, and now they're even in the NFT adoption, and there's a lot of interest in disrupting and using this technology. So don't wait. But be careful. And the second one is don't assume that companies will take risks to their current business just to become more efficient. They won't. So if an enterprise is used to dealing with a real world asset in a specific way, and you want to establish a digital asset that connects to that real world asset, of course they understand that blockchain technology can make them more efficient, let alone by smart contracts integration. But if that means creating a wallet, managing keys and signature thresholds and stuff like that, that is where you start losing the connection to the real world enterprise users. So If you go in this direction, your project will end up on the desk of the general counsel or the compliance officer. So focus on solving a real world problem, an actual user problem, and use the blockchain technology in the back end. Of course, highlight the value add that it provides to you, but it is just back end technology for most enterprises. Completely different for end customers and users outside of the enterprise space. And the third one is very short, choose your blockchain wisely if you are addressing enterprise customers, because enterprises stick to ESG criteria to measure they have to measure their performance outside of mere financial data. So they would definitely not ruin their carbon footprint for you. But if you go with a proof of stake chain like the Casper chain, then you are fine. So that's my key takeaways and lessons learned that I would like to share with the community here.
Thanks, Jonas. And Jonas, you brought up two very subtle points here, but I would like to emphasize on those. One is blockchain is not a solution in itself, but it's a solution. It's a part of the jigsaw puzzle that enterprises are trying to solve. So we have to, and at Casper Labs, we realized it very, very early on, is that blockchain is a part of the solution, and we have to always make sure that we are able to integrate into the overall stack that the organizations and enterprises are used to. And that's the reason we have built it in a way that it can become a part of your CI/CD. You can have your test suite running on it. You use a language which is not a proprietary language like Solidity. So that focus has always been there to make sure that enterprises are able to seamlessly integrate Casper blockchain solutions into their stack without changing too much of their existing stack. You can use the same IDE that you have been using, for example. So that's one aspect. And the second one, as you talked about, certainly was the use of private versus public blockchain. And very initially, enterprises have been shy of using public blockchain infrastructure for a very simple reason that the data on public blockchain is available to everyone to see. And that's the reason a lot of enterprises were kind of following Hyperledger solutions, because everything was private and contained in their infrastructure. Casper provides best of both worlds. If you want to go with a purely private application, Casper technology can be employed to do that. Your network can, we have a quick start template on AWS. You get a click of a button, you can run a node and create a private chain just for yourself, and nobody has access to it. As an enterprise, that is possible. You can use, obviously, the Casper public blockchain, which has been running for several months now, or you can do a hybrid solution, which is kind of drives best of both worlds. What you want to keep private, you use your private instance of Casper nodes for that, and for authenticity or proof, you can hash the state and put it on the public blockchain. So it is possible to create a solution which kind of combines best of everything. Moving over to Esteban and Kamal, what would be your advice? Because your asset is a bit unique asset. It's digital music asset. How do you suggest people combine the physical and the digital world?
Yeah, exactly. Though, so it's good that you limit it, because we also from our side, we also did a tokenization of other real world assets, like including real estate. But yeah, if we limit it to music, I would say it's more like the experiences which come with it. So basically what we are saying is that if when we were younger, and I know that the audience may vary, but at least when I was younger, I would go to a record store, and then you had the choice between buying a single, maybe buying the album, and then you always had these special albums with some goodies and maybe a signed T-shirt and et cetera. So that is one of the things which you can definitely combine with music related NFTs, because it's all about the communication from an artist with his or her fan base. where you would always look at like, okay, what are the Easter eggs which are included in these NFTs, and what are the experiences which we are giving. Yeah, as I mentioned, we will not only have like music, we'll also have other types of NFTs. But again, there it's all about an experience. So like most of the clients we speak with, we conceptualize it together with them, and we always say like, yeah, we have this one digital element, which is the NFT, and that NFT can be just one NFT. It can be an NFT and in combination with access to a metaverse, or it could be NFT, metaverse, and also a real-time experience. And that's something which we will do with the music as well. So we will have our own. And just to give you an example, we will have our own like metaverse the music club, but we also own a real club in real life. So like the real club will be where people could actually come to, and we will showcase the NFTs on the screens in the real club, and that's a benefit because you can then have a combination with the real world, where you could meet your favorite artist, where you can have like certain life experiences which you may not have had without the NFT. So for us, it's always about a concept, and the concept is always about making sure that it's interesting for a fan base, and that there's sufficient Easter eggs to be given away to make it interesting and to really make it work. Because just an NFT by itself, standalone, it may work now, but I think what we see happening now with this hyper growth of the market, you see so many artists are working on this, so many brands are looking into this, and there's a lot of people who have no idea what they need to do in order to actually capture something from this market. And yeah, this will keep on growing. I'm 100% sure. It's just be mindful of what you combine. And again, there, like if you're combining something with your own project or whatever, so whatever you promise, just make sure that it's real, and that you're not misrepresenting. That's an important thing.
Yeah, that's great, and I can already see the value. If you go meet as a fan, you go meet your artist, and you take a selfie, and then you can create an NFT out of the selfie. I mean, there's a lot that can happen here. Kamal, what do you think?
I think in bridging the physical and digital will come down to some experiential and adding and unlocking some special, unique experiences. So even for now, we're with the Grammys got postponed due to COVID, but we're actually setting up some experiences around Grammys to get the fans out there and get them, a more personal and deeper integration. So I do believe by integrating some of the real world experiences that we could do will be very, very important. And if you look at the case study of the Kings of Leon and the success that they had by giving people that bought, certain NFTs access to the lifetime of their concerts, as well as, special dinners prior and so forth. So I think it's very important in tying in the physical world into what we're doing. So we're super excited in being able to bring the fan base and give them a better experience that they can take with them forever.
Thank you, Kamal. Coming back to you, Carlos, you talked about metaverse, and I know there is incredible innovation happening at Wisekey and Wise.art with NFTs being minted in space and a lot of stuff. Help our audience understand how you're going about the physical digital world connection and your ideas around metaverse.
So I think the big opportunity we have here now is solving a architectural problem the web had. The web 2.0 identity management was lousy, actually non-existent. That's why we're still not able to do binding transactions on the internet. And the web 3.0 solves that problem with the integration of the blockchain. So only there you have a tremendous amount of new opportunities, because the only really companies that managed to create wealth in the web 2.0 has been companies that were very smart in creating identity platforms. Facebook, Twitter, they are identity platforms. They collect data through identities. So with the Web 3.0, the big opportunity is that we are decentralized identities, as I mentioned before, and we are coming from the cybersecurity angle. We are a cybersecurity company. We sell crypto, we develop encryption, we provide reassurance, we develop trust models, and that applies very well with the NFT ecosystem. Now, for us, the NFT, as I mentioned before, is a way to mint an identity on the blockchain, an identity that is unreputable, that cannot be changed or compromised or modified. Now, what we are doing now is connecting everything. I call now the internet of NFTs, basically, because everything that has an identity then can connect with anything that has an identity. So what we did with Casper Lab using your blockchain is that we develop a platform that basically lets any identity being issued by your microchips and there was a speaker mentioning the whiskey traceability we do for wines, expensive wine. We do for 2.5 million luxury watches in Switzerland. We do for this kind of object, but the opportunity is beyond that. It is, for instance, tracing cargo on the sea, tracing products on the supply chain. Illicit trade is a $2.5 trillion problem. Which is there because it's so easy to counterfeiting products. If you have a way to embed into the product its identity and validate the NFT in the blockchain, then the counterfeiting becomes very difficult. So what we are doing is going really to build a global infrastructure of connectiveness of NFT. So what we did actually, we convinced SpaceX last month to launch our own satellite. So we have now in orbit 16 satellites. We're going to have 88 at the end of the year. Those are IoT satellites. We did a deal with LoRa and Sigfox, which are companies that they provide antenna capability. So basically now we are able, through the space, track NFTs, which are embedded into objects through their identity on the chip real time. So we can tell connected cars where they are. We can tell supply chain. We can tell a cargo in the middle of the sea transporting merchandising where they are. So that traceability, that real-time verification is where the big opportunity does. Obviously, all that ends into marketplaces, platforms like Wisar is one dedicated to art, but we are actually working in other platforms and there are more people not selling the NFT. A big opportunity here is not only to sell the NFT, it's actually to record the NFT in a way that it is recorded, and I am completely safe from my company perspective that if something happens, we can recover that identity because it's being minted on the NFT. So this is a big opportunity. As I said before, we are connecting 3 trillion objects to the internet. Everything will connect. Objects will connect between themselves. Actually, as you know, Wisky has also an AI company, which was acquired 3 years ago. And we are also testing the possibility to introduce AI capability at the NFT level. So NFTs could themselves become smart and intelligent in the future. So this is a big opportunity. As I say, this is the underlying infrastructure for Web 3.0. And Web 3.0 is not going to be the same players of Web 2.0. They're going to be totally different ones. And this is a great opportunity for the panelists and the companies associated with NFT, because we can grow very fast all together in basically disrupting the internet.
Thank you, Carlos. That was really, really very insightful. Thank you so much, Kamal, Esteban, Jonas, Nim, and Carlos for joining and sharing your insights with our audience today. Ross, do we have time for question and answer? I know we are already over time a little bit here.
Actually, our next speaker got some personal problems, so we still have additional 45 minutes. So you could use any time you want for comments or any additional information.
All right, so let's open it up for question and answer, depending on the traction we have here for questions. We can go over say 5-10 more minutes.
So Ashok, I have a question for you. How do you see your ecosystem of players and they're sitting on Casper Lab? blockchain to create interoperability between themselves, because that will be an amazing way for you to grow to the next level as well. If we start to be interoperable, means solutions and they are built on the Casper lab becomes automatically integrated and interoperable with other platforms that we are putting on the top of your blockchain.
Yeah, that's a great thought, Carlos, and something that we have been thinking about here. The beauty is that the underlying infrastructure or the standard that we are using is for developing NFTs. The core parts of those are going to be common across the NFTs that are being built and the solutions that are being built. And that helps us in terms of promoting interoperability where two partners really want to help each other or want to work together. I can give one example. The NFT for KYC that was required for Metacast. It's again built as a NFT contract, and the whiskey cask in itself is also represented as NFT. But we could create the interoperability of the two, where the system goes and checks the right KYC available, because alcohol is a controlled product, right? So definitely it needed to be regulated. Some countries allow it, some countries don't allow it. So the KYC process has to be elaborate, and it has to be on chain because you want to record it. So the NFT for the KYC it communicates or interacts with the other system that NIM has put together. That's just an example. We did not consciously actually think of this, Carlos, that we have to kind of create this, but just by the nature of having standards that we are following, this has become very easy and very core value proposition that we have.
Yeah, I mean, I can certainly add something, some color there. So one of the things that we wanted to do when we were building out our marketplace is to support the concept of on-chain KYC, primarily because as a marketplace, we're actually not custodying users' tokens or funds, right? And so a user is able to connect their Casper account into the marketplace and then effectively participate in the marketplace. But to make that happen, we actually needed to support the concept of on-chain KYC. And so we worked with a vendor who will actually execute the KYC on their application, but the end result is a token that gets issued, an NFT, but if it's a special type of NFT called a non-transferable token that will sit in your wallet, which contains effectively whether you passed KYC or not. Right? And this information is then used by things like the auction smart contract, for example, to verify whether you're allowed to participate in this particular auction that we're executing. And so doing this on chain means that you can now start to really build out these Web3 properties that we're talking about, right? Because, with Web3 style approaches, there's actually no concept of centralized database that's holding state, right? All this information theoretically should come from the blockchain. And so that's kind of one of the sort of unique things that we've certainly built into this marketplace. I'm sure other platforms will pick up these concepts and will, evolve to a point where something like KYC is kind of used across the board, right? And for us, it's, as Ashok said, it's kind of important because we're dealing with spirit. But down the line, maybe even the high-end art marketplaces or high-end physical item marketplaces, they will need something like that, right? And that's really the hope.
Yeah, and add to that. Casper Labs is working with leading financial institutions, banks, to work on tokenization of financial contracts, and a lot of these integrated solutions are going to be extremely important in building those blocks. As an FYI, right? Any other questions, Ross, coming from audience? I can't track it. So
actually, there is a question from Geoff regarding the Vice Art platform. There have been many rumors of potential art galleries that will use this platform. Could you give an example of what's to come?
Yeah, actually, I was just answering the question, but it's easier maybe that like that. So Wise Art is currently art and watches and luxury objects. But again, the WiseKey, the mother company, is a cybersecurity company. So our mission is not to develop platforms for ourselves. We did that as a way to integrate our knowledge base. What we do now is providing Wise Art for galleries or for museum or even for auction houses as a white label, and that integrates the entire identity management suite that was mentioned before. I will send more information in detail to the forum.
Yeah, and I see hand raised, so I'm turning on. Yeah.
Hi.
Please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Lynn. I'm a student, and I want to say thank you for all those information, everything. Now, my question is like, if you want to sell, if you want to sell an art, you have a, if you want to sell, for example, a art, right, and then you want to sell to the NFT, then what happens if you lose the actual real assets? What's gonna happen, like in case of a verification to make sure if it's not a scam or anything? I don't know if you understand my question.
Okay, we understand the question.
Okay.
Do you want to take it on, Esteban? Maybe this is more closer to you.
Yeah, one more time about the question. I didn't fully get the question. If you could repeat that, happy to answer. Oh, you're on mute, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. You can.
So
you can.
I was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was saying, like, as you say, NFT is a real. I mean, there's a real world between the real world and the digital asset, right? So if you sell, for example, if you sell an art and you want to do as an NFT in a digital asset, right? So what happens if you lose the actual assets,
Art.
the real
The
assets?
actual art.
Yeah, the actual art. And then like later, like they ask you for more to a verification, authentication, but you don't have it no more.
Yeah.
What happened to it?
So basically, in your scenario, you would say that the NFT would represent like all data in relation to the art, or would it be a one-to-one, let's say, copy where you have the digital art and you have the real like art piece as well? I think there's like a distinction which you can make there. Yeah, what happens if you lose it? I think that if it's like a verification NFT where you have verified that you are the owner and what type of art piece it is, then yeah, I think there's not much which you can do if you really lose the actual art piece, because you just have an NFT which is verified.
I can help add to that. Essentially, consider a case where your art gets stolen, right?
Yeah.
And then you want to now prove, and then maybe the thief gets caught or whatever, and now you want to prove that that art really belonged to you. That's where the NFT is going to be of help to you, because you only have the right to the NFT. You can prove in a very unambiguous way your ownership of the physical art. Secondly, consider that you have insurance done for the particular art, right? And just to prove that you were the real owner and maybe process your claim for the insurance, that's where maybe your NFT is going to be helping you. So there are ways and means in which your NFT as a digital twin can be helpful. And Carlos and I are going to be talking in the Economist panel a few minutes down the line about illicit trade and stuff like that. So those things are important, and NFTs have a real application there.
Yeah, and I think it's not only for art. You can really take it broader. So like maybe even let's say you want to go to a concert of your favorite artist, and you buy a ticket directly from let's say Ticketmaster. That's all fine. But in some cases, it could be that you're buying a ticket from somebody on eBay, and it's not a real ticket, right? Like, I better to have that as an NFT, because at there you could really show that that ticket is real and that it's authenticated. And same thing, like what I just mentioned to you, like in the art, like on the one hand, you can have an NFT which is like authenticating that you're the owner. I think that Ashok gave a great example there, that like if something happens, you can prove that you're the owner. On the other hand, you can have a combination. So some of our like let's say clients which we see, they want to combine like the real world art pieces with like a digital art pieces. So there you have a distinction. And yeah, I mean, in such case, of course, you could still prove ownership, but you would have both.
Yeah.
Maybe just to add something there. I mean, the NFT is a certificate, right? That's what it is. I mean, it is a certificate. Before NFTs, what do you had? You had a document, a paper, a PDF signed file. So now you have a certificate which is minted in the blockchain that proves that you are the owner of that piece of art. And in the past, pieces of art were extraordinarily difficult to prove ownership. You know, I've been working on that area, and sometimes you have the provenance certificates are very bad documented. Sometimes they were the families of the painters. So that industry is being transformed now by the fact that the provenance needs to be digitally signed with a digital signature of an authorized trusted party. All that is notarized. When it's done notarized, then you issue the NFT. All that information is minted. So you can go back and forward from the original back to the NFT. And this is a big change now, because that is transforming all the industry. Intellectual property industry has been transformed through that. Even money in the future will be transformed through that. So that's the uniqueness of this technology.
Fully agree. And maybe to add on that as well, like, so separate from the music, we also own a regulated exchange. And basically the back end of the exchange, some of the market infrastructure technology which we built, yeah, we don't call it NFTs, but it is basically NFT based, exactly like based on what Carlos is just saying, like just that you could authenticate that something is real, and you could include a lot of data in that specific NFT which cannot be altered, right? Like, so if you want to have something which is trackable, yeah, that's definitely the way to go. And look, in the past we have seen different type of blockchains who were also like blockchain protocols which were being launched like in 2017, 2018, who were claiming that they would have verified that, for example, certain watches are real, or certain luxury items are real. And I think back then, yeah, it was maybe a different concept which they had than if they would have known now. Like with NFTs, that's definitely something which is possible. You could have a watch and can have a let's say a QR code instead of like these silly certificates which they give to you, and you can actually prove that you're the owner. You can prove that you paid your value-added tax on it, or that you reclaimed your value-added tax. And like a history of maintenance of the watch, etc., etc. It can all be stored in that specific NFT, and that creates a lot of value. So, like, I mean, you can definitely use it in your advantage in many ways.
There is a question that was posted on Casper Labs Twitter channel. What are the other NFT-based enterprise use cases Casper Labs expects to work on? Anything particular in talks? Yes, there is a lot happening in the space of NFTs. This is, and as I mentioned earlier, there is a movement from like digital art to real world applications, and there are plenty of those that we are working on. I can give some examples. Obviously, the platforms for the partners that we have here on the call are either already launched or they are in the process of being launched. Other than that, we're working with supply and chain vaccine use case where IoT integrations are being worked on. There is another IoT applications where we need to track movement of the containers and have them geo-fenced and all of that. So there's a little complicated business use case there. We are working on financial contracts being represented as NFTs and then tokenizing them to securitize and be able to do trading of those contracts. So there are a lot of potentially complex use cases. We're working with insurance industry a lot to look at insurance policies and representing them as tokens and what we can do and how we can help with claims processing, where a lot of data needs to be shared between insurance industries and insurance service providers. So there is a lot of innovation that is currently happening, and there are several fronts we are working on right now. Yeah, I also see there's a Casper Labs create an NFT marketplace in future. Casper Labs is a layer one. Casper is a layer one public blockchain, and Casper Labs is essentially a pro services shop which is helping enterprises build solutions. On top of it, do we want to have our own marketplace? I don't think so at this point in time, but we do have the technology. I mean, we may create a platform that can be white labeled. All right. I think we've gone way over, Ross. We've gone way over the time that you had allocated us. As against 45, we're already closing in on like 75 minutes. So thank you so much for the opportunity that you've given us. Thank you so much, Carlos, Nim, Esteban, Kamal, and Jonas for your time here. This is a really great discussion that we had today. So in the end, come build on Casper's NFT platform to create disruptive industrial applications. I hope the insights that our partners, visionary leaders here shared with you will inspire you, and we are here to help you build that. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ashok, for coming. It was really interesting and great content you share with your colleagues. Thank you very much. I encourage everybody to thank you. Thanks, Ashok and colleagues. You could do it giving your feedback in the chat. So thank you very much.
Yeah, and if there are any other questions, you can direct them to me and any of our panelists. I'm sure they'll be happy to engage with you. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Have a nice day and evening.
Thank you so much. Bye, you too.